presented here for your consideration the notion that the ordinary people surrounding you every day, on the street, the bus, at the post office, or the trendy evening venue, are, in fact, far from ordinary. That these men, women, and others form their own splinter groups behind closed doors, and that these micro-societies engage in activities often more obscure than fiction. Welcome to the Sub-Subculture.
Yes, hello, and welcome to the Sub-Subculture Podcast. I'm your host and decommissioned theme park mascot, Andrew.
And I'm babbling fool, Joe.
You do babble like a brook.
Thank you.
Pleasant sound.
A pleasant babbling.
It is a pleasant babble. A low rumbling of discontent from the distance.
Contains about as much information.
Today, we are casting our intellectual rods far, far out into the mire swamp that is dating app culture and its subculture of catfishing. Yes?
I'm so excited for this. This is a topic that's close to my heart.
And closer to your loins. How would you give us a one-line juicy hook?
Hook you as if I was fishing for a bottom-feeding fish of some kind. Yeah.
Yes.
I think the question we can ask ourselves here is this the only way that's left to form relationships?
Is this what we've become?
Is this what we've become? Does it do more harm than good?
Interesting. That's a good question. We need to circle back to that at the end for sure. And now, before we get in too deep and snag our metaphorical lines on any discarded shopping trolleys of controversy, I'm sure there'll be a few. Can you hit me up with a description, top line description here?
Well, let's do preconceptions first, if that's necessary.
We can do that. Just waste my time on things that I've said. Ruin.
We've got to observe the format.
No, we wrote it down. We're doing it like this, Gerald. Okay. So, preconceptions. Do you want to start with this?
Okay. It's been a long time since I wasn't involved in dating apps in some way. My first memory of it was probably in the 90s when my uncle met his now wife through Match.com in the late 90s after a messy divorce. And that was back when it was considered taboo and basically a badge of social failure. Oh, you couldn't find a real human, how you had to go online. Ooh, desperate. But they're still together. And dating has since become almost exclusively online. So I've been too involved in this to really have a proper preconception, but I think you've never actually tangled with modern dating, have you?
No, dating by algorithm has not got me. So my preconceptions on this, I guess I've been aware of online dating as a thing. People would have started doing it around the office. I remember when it was like you were a bit more classy if you paid for a service like Match.com. And then the people that were on Plenty of Fish and the ones that are literally free, it was a bit like, oh, what do you think you're going to find on there? Kind of prejudice inside dating apps. That was, I guess that's the only preconceptions I had of it was from that really, but I've never engaged with it to have social media now either. So
how long ago did you meet your wife?
We have been married for 13 years this year.
God damn. So you got the last chopper out of Vietnam before it all went tits up when Tinder launched in 2012 and revolutionized dating as we know it.
I mean, I guess my preconceptions would be largely around the catfishing scene because that seems to be quite prevalent and we can talk about that later. And my understanding of that was largely tied up in online dating and some of the scare stories that came out of early like social media things on MySpace, where you had these cases that defined that whole stranger danger and why our parents wouldn't let us in chat rooms kind of attitude when little young girls went missing and were literally murdered by people they met on MySpace. There's like 2002, 2007, 2006, all quite high profile murder and suicide cases from there. So the concept of catfishing, I have preconceptions on around people faking pictures and profiles and meaning to do someone harm by pretending to be someone else on the internet, right?
From the very beginning.
Yeah.
I think that pretty much came with the internet, was this anonymity, which is beautiful and terrible in equal measure. And I think even at the earliest levels of internet literacy, one of the first things you're taught is be careful of who you talk to. You don't know who anyone really is. And not everyone is a nice person.
Assume that whoever you're talking to is not who they say they are, and you're probably closer to the truth.
You're probably right more often than wrong.
I mean, that's the online disinhibition effect that came up in the furries episode as well, of people creating their own personas. Your persona on the internet isn't necessarily a reflection of who you are in real life. And psychologytoday.com says that the internet is a stage for reinvention. So like you say, you know, you don't have to be who you physically are on the internet. And in a positive sense, you can be better than yourself. You can post your particularly flattering photos, leave out the crappy ones, put a filter on them. You can tweak your age a little bit in your bio to make you seem slightly younger without being potentially too seedy about it. And you can maybe exaggerate some of your experiences, whether that's for work or personal life, to make yourself seem a little bit better than you are. That's the base level of interaction. People are basically catfished from having a Facebook profile.
It's true. We'll talk about this in more detail, but I think catfishing is a spectrum, a continuum, and pretty much everyone that does any sort of online profile creation is doing some form of image management. You're selecting the best photos. Obviously, you're not going to upload a photo where you look like a thumb or a doughy sack of shit. Why would you do that? So you always pick that photo where you happen to look particularly good in it, and you're kind of creating a golden image of who you are or who you want to be. And that's at the mild end. I think most people do that. If you're not doing that, then you're maybe doing profile creation wrong. If you're trying to make it ugly or crushingly realistic, I think you can...
I wonder if we can ever... Maybe I would get back into it just for that, like the most realistic pictures of me when I'm first thing in the morning, wake up and take a picture with your eyes are barely open, or like hammered at 2:00 in the morning.
Hashtag just woke up like this.
Piss stained. Yeah, hashtag just woke up like this from a 30-minute nap that I took from falling asleep on whiskey.
What's really funny though is there are particularly blokes out there that have profiles just like that no thought or effort has gone into it at all, and they look like trash and they get them nowhere.
Oh right, you mean not for the sake of lols, but they do it because they don't know any better or haven't realised that they're not supposed to.
Probably that, yeah.
Okay.
There's a whole interesting psychology behind what someone's profile is. So on the surface level, you've got what they are trying to tell you about themselves, what they want to tell you. And on the level below that, you can, based on what it is they're trying to tell you and how they present themselves, you can actually get a deeper insight into who they are, but unintentionally from the person making the profile. Like someone that, a typical sin, in my opinion, is telling rather than showing. When someone says, I'm really funny, and there's just no evidence of this in their profile, it's like, well, if you're funny, maybe you should make a joke instead of just saying you're funny.
Okay.
And it shows a sort of, in that particular case, it shows a lack of mentalizing how you're going to be perceived, a lack of being able to view your own profile through someone else's eyes. So already you can begin to get an idea of this person's probably not the best at empathy or lateral thinking, or just maybe they're just not good with, PR and stuff like that.
Or self-reflection.
Self-reflection.
God damn, I want to do a whole side quest on people's lack of self-awareness and self-perception around like how they dress in general.
It's astonishing, isn't it? Astonishing. I've got more to say about that. But another very common sin on a dating app profile is someone that has only uploaded group pictures, and there might be 6 photos, and they're all group pictures, and it's like, which one of you cunts is the real one? Like, who am I looking at here? And you can kind of do like an elimination game throughout the lot of it.
Which one's in all the pictures?
Exactly. Like, oh, that's who you are. But again, that shows a complete inability to see things from other people's perspective. Like, you know who you are, but did you stop to fucking think what this is going to look like to the person that you're advertising to? You clown. It's
quite
basic.
Funny. The only person I've come across that has openly said that she catfishes as a hobby, more or less, in an office that I used to work in.
What?
Yeah. She said that she enjoys catfishing online. But it was quite amusing that you're saying this about profile pictures, because if she was being honest, she had the physical attractiveness of 3 sacks of potatoes that were haphazardly thrown together. So it's like, maybe it's not by choice. Anyway, we're diving in already. Let's walk it back and do a description of online dating and online dating culture. We've done some preconceptions. What are we talking about exactly?
So, creating a definition on the fly, because I haven't got one written down, I would say online dating is the practice of engaging with a dating app or dating website, dating service that operates through the internet, in which you engage with other users' profiles and exchange messages, typically written messages rather than voice notes, although that's becoming more popular. And eventually, in theory, if you have a connection with someone, meeting them in the real world, at which point, if you've got lucky and you meet someone that you like and they like you, you might never go back to online dating. In reality, that rarely happens.
Okay. And I don't know why I even ask, because everyone that listens to this is going to know what online dating is. It's for future historians.
Yeah. When they're sifting through the radioactive debris and wondering how we lived.
And obviously this is going to be the only thing that survives because of all the cassettes I've burned it onto and scattered out of an airplane.
Excellent. I'm trying to get it etched into a concrete block.
A stone tablet of our works.
Hieroglyphs of our great works, yeah.
Hieroglyphs that are 99% dick pics. That's would be this episode.
These guys really like dicks. All of their iconography is about dicks.
It was a more or less an all dick-based economy.
Ancient wisdom.
Dating apps specifically, and as I said to you before we started, this is the first one we've looked at where we're calling it a culture or a subculture, but you don't really engage with it as a group. It's not something that people define or have rules or need to get organized to do. There's not really boundaries. It's just something that how people interact through dating apps is just like cultural osmosis.
It's something that you kind of do on your own mostly, although you can swipe with friends, but generally this is something you engage with on your own, occasionally meeting people. But it's not something you can go and do with your friends for a few hours at the weekend as a social activity that you enjoy. A lot of the time, actually, people find this draining in some way. There's good upsides and downsides to it, but it's not something that you engage in that is fully fun all of the time. There's definitely a mental cost to it. It's work for a lot of people.
Okay, and we need to know who are the big players in this space. Which apps are we talking about now? What's the hot app for dating? What are the young people pressing their greasy digits on their cellular telephones?
So if I find a little bit of l'histoire, a little bit of history, obviously it didn't happen before the internet. Before the internet, there were classified ads in newspapers where you had a paragraph to make your pitch and hope someone equally lonely and desperate would read it and call your phone, your house number, which is wild when you think about it. It's so different from how it happens now.
Still a thing. Like, you know, the free newspaper
No
that
way.
you get on the tube? They're like, there's a whole 2-page spread of those, aren't they? Like missed connections.
Oh, yeah. I wonder if that's just boomers doing it or if it's, younger folk as well.
I wonder if it's only people doing it ironically now, like everything. Because young people invented irony. I don't know if you've come across this concept, but they're the first people to do things ironically are young people.
They've gone into it in a big way. They've really invested. So it's just hipsters in Shoreditch, basically.
Saw you on a bus. Thought you was fit. You had a brown skirt. I was a builder. Call me.
Pure poetry. So in the mid-90s, early 2000s, it was done on websites. People obviously didn't have smartphones. Apps, as we know it, weren't a thing. And this was Match.com and later eHarmony. So Match.com was the pioneer, really. And it was quite an involved process to create a profile. It was paid. Hours of work might go into making a profile. And there was a real sort of intentional sense of trying to engage with someone. And eHarmony did much the same thing.
This is more like your romantic CV rather than just a quick profile.
Yeah, more like traditional matchmaking, I guess. The second phase is where things began to change, and we had things like OkCupid and Plenty of Fish. They came around in 2009 in their earliest form. Again, I think they started as websites. So we're beginning to approach the time of the app, but it still wasn't ubiquitous. And these had the big innovation of making it free. So it was much less of a commitment to sign up to one of these things. You could just do it for free like any old crappy service. You had no particular investment in it. So already it's beginning to change the way people engage with the process.
The barriers to entry are lower, and therefore the content that you find in it is probably going to be. That's what I mean about this, sort of snobbery. If you were putting your profile on plenty of fish, you were kind of cheap.
And it makes sense. And then in 2012, Tinder blew everything out of the water. The first real dating app that had mass market appeal, and they invented the swipe, which of course has become completely commonplace now. Everyone knows what that means. And
yes, we all do. All of us know. I swipe many times a day.
But you must have heard the term, right? Swipe right on this, or they swiped left, and
yeah, I might have done.
Yeah, and that really gamified things. It was free again, and it may have started out with good intentions, which I doubt, but it very quickly became more optimized for engagement with the app and monetization of its user base, even though it's nominally a free app, much rather than it was ever about meaningful connection.
That's a good, interesting thing there. So by making it an app, you give it away free. As you said, you gamify it. It's super easy, but then, I've hit some kind of barrier and I need to pay for extras to make more profile pictures or to upload a video or something, right? So you've got, it's a freemium app.
Exactly. And you're sold this idea that paying for upgrades will increase the number of matches that you get. A match being where two people have mutually liked each other's pictures and then you're connected by the app. That's a match. So you send likes out and other people will see your profile and they won't know that you've liked them or disliked them, which is part of the intermittent reinforcement that the app's so good at, the kind of anticipation of whether you'll match with someone or not. 2 dislikes don't make a connection. One person liking, the other disliking, not liking, doesn't make a connection. It has to be 2 likes and then it connects the users.
That gives us an idea of what the format is now, what all the young people is doing. And so the name Tinder, I guess, comes from tinderbox, sparking, making sparks, making a fire from it.
Yeah. With Tinder, you would get shown one picture and a name. And you could look at their profile, you could look at the other pictures, see what they've chosen to write about themselves. But you could make a snap decision on one picture if you wanted to say, yes, I like this person, like the look of this person, or get rid of them completely and not see them again, unless they reinstalled the app and do that. And so it's completely changed the way people engage with each other and distilled it down to potentially just a glance at one photo. And that is the assessment of whether you want to know anything more about this person or not.
But while I have a question for you around internet shopping, don't let me forget, isn't that more or less how picking someone up in a bar would work? You get one glance across the bar to look at someone and decide whether you want to shoot your shot in their direction.
Potentially. And I think there's some people that you look at and you know you're just not ever going to be attracted to them. But there's other people that are kind of borderline, and you can't really tell from a photo exactly what someone looks like. People look different in person. At least in the bar, you're seeing that. And we tend to become more attracted to people that we like. So, I mean, in a bar situation, fine, you might only be there minutes at a time and you're never going to get to know someone. But if you're having a conversation with someone, then someone that might have been borderline to you could become attractive if you have a good connection. But if you got rid of them in the first instance because you were meh on their photo, then you would potentially miss out on that connection.
Okay. Do you think that this app style, gamifying it, makes dating, well, firstly, you're doing it online. So as we said, disinhibition, you don't really feel bad about swiping past a whole bunch of people like, meh, not great. I hate the slight tone of your hair in this picture, bye. Is it more like online shopping in that you can have a quick glance at something, it feels non-committal to click away through the pages and there's no real consequence to it until you part with your money?
Totally.
Send a message.
And depending who you are, you might never part with your money. It was a long time before I paid for anything on a dating app, and I did fine for a long period of time.
Humble brag, I did fine.
Humble brag, for a period of time. There's an end to that story. It doesn't always stay that way. But women in general aren't the ones paying. Generally, the apps are monetizing male loneliness, male desperation, male horniness, because it's more monetizable than...
It's easier. It's just fucking easier. You can say it.
Yeah, it's easier to do than monetizing the female equivalent. And there's an imbalance in how the different genders experience the dating apps. So for some women, well, for men and women, if you're attractive, it is like shopping. You send out likes to people and there's a high probability they'll like you back if you're considered attractive, in the top 10 or 5% of, if you were to rank everyone by attractiveness. For those people, it is kind of like a shopping experience. For people that are less attractive, people that are borderline, or people that are unattractive, then it's not like shopping at all. It's more like a casino of misery where you're
good.
Where you're trying to hit the jackpot, playing the slot machine, pulling the fucking lever over and over and nothing's happening. But you're just hoping that you're going to match with someone that's going to take you away from all this. It's going to validate you as desirable. And it's a depressing experience for many.
I guess I've never had a banana try and jump out of my shopping basket, so it's maybe less like shopping than I thought. Don't know what to do with that.
I don't know. Just gonna let that. I don't even know where to begin.
I don't know what I'm doing here.
So yeah, that's Tinder. Yeah. So we're going to run down the apps. That's Tinder. Tinder was the revolutionary player, and
Pioneer.
The pioneer. There's been lots of copycat apps since then. Bumble is very similar. It's founded...
What did you say? What's it called? Not Bumhole.
Bumble.
Oh, Bumhole. Got it.
I don't know why it's called Bumble. They've got a sort of bee theme, but what bumbling has to do, I don't know.
It fits perfectly with what you've just described in the app. You're just sort of bumbling around, hoping to...
Yeah, maybe it's that.
Hoping to gather some pollen.
So...
I don't know what I'm talking about. Oh, these are the worst metaphors I've ever done. I'm fucking lost, man.
Come back when you're drunk. You make sense again. So Bumble was founded by someone who split away from Tinder. I think possibly one of the original Tinder founders. I don't know if she got kicked out or she wanted to do her own thing or whatever. But
a woman.
A woman. Whitney Wolf Herd, I think her name is. And she's one of the youngest female billionaires, or super rich or something, because it's one of the big three dating apps. But its basic shtick was, we're Tinder, except we're going to put more power with women. And we'll say women have to initiate the conversations. Or I say have to. It's pitched like women have the privilege of choosing who they allow to engage with them by sending the first message. It's sort of like, it's the feminist app, basically.
It's just saying that we need to, because we need to make the internet a safe space for women, because all these dating apps are just aggressive dick pics.
Yeah, most experiments with allowing picture messaging have ended in disaster immediately with a torrent of dicks. There's a certain kind of man that thinks that's a good idea. Maybe there's a certain kind of woman that it works on. I don't know. I'm yet to hear someone that's like, yeah, I love a random dick pic out of nowhere from a stranger, from a sweaty, overweight.
There's none. No one ever wants one. Okay.
Well, what I always tell people is, if you don't want unsolicited dick pics from me, then you'd better solicit them, because they're coming one way or another. So Bumble's shtick is, we're Tinder, but women were complaining in Tinder that they were overwhelmed with the amount of attention from men. So they would rack up a bunch of matches, and there's no particular limit on that. And lots of men could initiate messaging with them, and they might have an inbox full of 20, 30 messages, which is completely unmanageable. Never mind that they chose how many people to put in there, and we'll forget that for now. But Bumble says you can match with as many people as you want, which is part of the appeal for many people. Some people just want the validation of feeling desired and having matches, and have a sort of library of people they can look at as these semi-conquests. But anyway, in Bumble, you then send the first message as the woman, and then you have a normal conversation, and then it operates just like Tinder. Recently, it turns out women really don't like having to send the first message. On Tinder, it's almost always the man, because again, he's the horny, desperate one of the two, more motivated to act. So in Tinder, it's almost always the man that messages first. And Bumble have recently introduced a feature which basically comes up with an opening sentence for you if you're a woman, so you don't have to think, you can just press that. And most of the time, the first message was, hey, anyway, and then it's like, over to you, guy, you carry this conversation.
Wow, I'm so glad we needed AI for that. Opening zinger.
AI is another one. So I am not on the apps anymore but I know they were thinking of this, was introducing AI features to write messages for you. And it's going to have AI features to reply, probably pay for this. And pretty soon it's just going to be AI bots messaging each other. And if these two fucks ever meet in real life, they're not going to have the slightest clue how to talk to each other or what the other person's like or what they're like, because they've outsourced all of the effort.
I'm going to get a virtual spray bottle for you for this episode when I hear the red pill content. All these bloody women in their lists of men that they had queuing up for their attention. Well, I'm out here slaving every day, trying to get likes.
That's what it's like.
No.
It's hard. It's honestly, man, it's hard not to get bitter about the situation, but I'll try and hold it together. So that's Bumble. And then Hinge is kind of a latecomer. It's sort of the thinking woman's app. It's meant to be the more serious one. Hinge doesn't really have much of a gimmick. It's just a little bit more about what you've written, a little bit less about your pictures, but it's still very...
So it's the same, but with nicer fonts.
Pretty much, yeah. They've got fancy fonts for Hinge. And they're all owned by the same group.
Times New Roman.
I think Match Group owns pretty much all of the dating apps and services.
But that would be Match.com's group.
I think so, yeah.
So they just bought everything.
Yeah.
They meted this shit.
And then there's niche ones. Maybe not niche, maybe that's the wrong word, but things like Grindr, which are focused on gay relationships. I think primarily gay men. I might be wrong there.
You are not.
There's also Grindr's thing was it shows you where people are in real time, so you can go and find someone then and there and go cottage with them in a public urinal or whatever it is you want to do.
I heard that it's brutal on Grindr.
Yeah, it's not for the faint-hearted.
Air quotes. I heard that. It's yes. Sam was like, I just gave up on these gay apps and stuff because it's not any more aggressive than it would be for a woman, but it's just like you can have two aggressive men coming at you.
It's intense.
He just said like every message seems to start with, "Hi, are you ripped? I'm cut. Let's fuck."
It's unfettered men without female distaste to keep them in check.
Horny men seeking horny men.
Yeah, straight to the fucking point. Are we going to smash or what?
I think that's what you said.
Trevor.
The messages were like,
nice to meet you.
This is not 9 a.m. meeting a material, Trevor.
Quit talking and come to this location. Okay. And there's other ones like Field, which we've mentioned in previous episode, possibly in Fairies.
I thought that was just some random website, and I was like, oh, I read this article on Field, and you were like, that's filth. That's dating filth.
Yeah. It's for kinks and alternative stuff.
The article on furries makes sense now.
Yeah, exactly. So BDSM and furries and whatever other kinks float your boat, it's the home for all of them. I think along with, I don't know if it's an app or a website, but I think it's been around a while, fetlife.com for the serious fetishist. And that's pretty much the spectrum.
That's fine. Good. Excellent. So you've already touched on this, it feels quite imbalanced, and the more attractive and the more female you are, the more successful your time is going to be on dating apps, you reckon?
Yes and no. The more attractive you are, the better. There's just no getting away from that. That's as it is in life, as it is on the dating app. It's just in real life, you can compensate with things like charm and humor and, I don't know, maybe integrity or decency or these things.
Wallet, deep pockets, yeah.
By which I mean money, yep. And in a dating app, it's much more skewed towards how you look visually and whether you can tell people you're rich in a way that doesn't make it look like that's what you're doing. Yeah.
Profile pictures, mostly a wad of cash.
Yeah.
With a bellend poking at the top.
From inside a rented Lamborghini.
Badly photoshopped in.
Yeah. So I think it's really quite interesting, the economics of dating apps. So men are much freer with their interest because a lot of the time men just want to fuck. I'm going to make some generalizations here. In the male population, there's more of an inclination to just wanting to fuck. There's plenty of men that are looking for relationships, but there's plenty of men that just want to bone down. For women, there's a higher proportion that are looking for something serious, something longer term. Sure, some still want to just fuck too, but generally that's how they skew. And men are very much more liberal with who they send out likes to because they'll have a crack at anything. Or there's certainly a wider range of people that they would be willing to have sex with. So what this means is the average woman receives a torrent of interest from men, and they can afford to be very selective And so then of those men, they pick the ones which are most attractive. And the way it shakes out is top 20% of men get around 80% of the interest. So it gets the top 80% of women are competing for the top 20% of men.
Source material, where are you getting this dating math from?
I can find it, but that's quite a commonly held statistic. Sorry, the bottom 80% of men are competing for the bottom 20% of women, because women get so much interest that they can raise their standards to be very high. So at the moment, it sounds like it's great for women. They get the pick of the bunch. But the problem is women, when they're looking for someone to commit to them, they can get someone to have sex with them, but then getting them to commit is the hard bit. And especially if they've got someone that's maybe out of their league who might fuck them on a weekend when they're not doing anything else, because guys are dirtbags like that and just will think like that. The same guy is not willing to commit to her necessarily. And so, but he might say anything to get laid, because as we know, men can be dogs, and a long and distinguished tradition of men saying anything to get laid. So I think women feel that they get used for sex, and men feel like they don't get any interest at all. And these are kind of the two. It's different problems. It's not easy being a woman on a dating app. It's not easy being a man on a dating app, unless you're attractive, in which case it gets a lot easier. But for most people, for the average people, it's a very difficult experience both ways, I think.
So why do it then? Why would you? Well, because it's easier in theory. It's low barrier to entry. But if it's difficult for everyone and the result is overall misery, why do it?
What's the alternative?
Go out and meet a person in an environment that is not your phone.
Yep. Now, a lot of people dream of that, but the reality is it's difficult, and it's rare to find someone that you can connect with in real life, especially because our lives have become less social, more on the phone.
Mm.
And even though your quality of connections might be a lot worse, at least in online dating, you have potential to get more of them. And one of them might hit the jackpot.
I guess if it's now the tide has turned and everyone's doing this, if you aren't on the dating apps, you'll feel like therefore there's no way for you to meet people, because that's the only way people meet each other now. Is that the prevalent feeling?
I think so. I haven't met a person organically that I'm interested in years, probably.
I'm going to cut it down to when I get through this, I'm going to cut it down to I've never met a person. I haven't met a person in years, or just full stop.
I've had a couple of dates with friends of friends, which is another way that it used to be done. But overall, I met way, way more people through dating apps over the years than I ever would have done organically, even if I set out for that to be my mission, just to meet people organically.
Okay. So it doesn't sound great anyway, but dive into, shall we, good sentence, constructing I am doing, the darker side or the worst sides of dating apps, other than the fact that it just sounds miserable. What's the worst bit of this whole experience, of this culture?
I think you hit on something when you said, why do it then? And people do it for different reasons. So not everyone is on a dating app because they're looking for a meaningful relationship, or even because they're looking for sex. There's a good number of people, I think some estimates have been as high as a third of profiles are just having a look. They might even be in a committed relationship already, and they're just seeing what's out there, seeing if they can do better. Some people enjoy the validation. I mean, it does feel good when you match with someone who you consider attractive. You feel like, oh my God, this person thinks I'm attractive. That validates me as a human, or a person that registers meaningfully on someone else's romantic or sexual radar, and that feels good. And some people just get addicted to that feeling, and they never have any intention of meeting in real life. That's, they're just there for a bit of an ego boost and move on. It tends to boost the average woman's ego and destroy the average man's.
Being on the app in general, not
Yeah.
this practice.
Yeah. So that's very frustrating to be on the receiving end of, when you're trying to engage with someone and they either don't respond, or, I mean, in my experience, I'd say only half of the people I matched with ever responded to me, which is probably normal. And, you get used to disappointments. You have to have a tough skin. At first, when I was first on it was disappointing when someone didn't reply to me. And after a while, that becomes expected. And when someone does reply, it's like, oh, that's nice, that's good. So you've got to be tough to survive these things. But the the worst behavior I ever came across, or the thing that hurts the most, is ghosting. Have you heard of this term?
I've heard of that, yeah, from TV and whatnot, just not replying to people, right?
Yes. Essentially, yes. I think there's a different couple of ways it can happen. Sometimes if you've just matched and you've not met in person, you're having a conversation, someone stops replying. Some people call that ghosting. I don't think that's such a big deal. You've not met them in person. Yeah, it's just internet chats. It might be disappointing because you've imagined a fantasy life with them in some way. You know, you imagined all the fun you're going to have together based on a handful of pictures, because we can't help but do that and hope, at least at the beginning. But when ghosting is really hurtful and disrespectful, I think, is when you've met someone in person and then they just don't reply to you again. No explanation, no nothing. I mean, you can fill in the blanks. The story is always, well, they just weren't interested, but it's the feeling unworthy of a response, feeling disrespected by people that really hurts.
I think I've ghosted my father in the worst way, the second one.
Yeah, second degree ghosting.
Second degree ghosting.
Yeah. I always found that rough. I never ghosted anyone. Anyone that I'd met in person who I didn't want to see again. If they messaged me after the date, I never left them hanging. I'd always say, thanks, but not interested, because it was easy to do.
This is the equivalent of if you were dating. Reference material here, Friends from the early 2000s. But you went out on a date with someone and they just don't call you again. That's that. That's ghosting.
Yeah, basically.
In the modern age.
Human nature hasn't changed. We've just put it in a slightly different environment and enabled some of its worst aspects with online dating, in my opinion.
Or made it easier. And the fact that it's online, you've got that barrier and that distance from people that it feels a lot less guilty, or you feel a lot less guilty to do these things, I guess.
Yeah, you can kind of dismiss it as, it's just, you can dehumanize people. It's easier. There's a modern mantra really that you don't owe anyone anything. And people say this to themselves quite a lot, usually when they've done something shitty to someone else and they kind of know. They say, well, I don't owe them anything. I don't owe them an explanation. And, on some level that's true, but I think decency really doesn't cost that much.
I'm getting the spray bottle ready. I'm just waiting.
Men do it to women as much as women do it to men.
It sounds like this, I don't know whether it's, the apps will deliberately want to make money from you. So that's the monetary side of it, the freemium part of the app. But they're kind of peddling misery to you, packaged as hope. And the whole process, if that's all that people are doing to meet people, it's only going to create an entire dating generation that are completely disillusioned and suspicious of everyone.
Yes, that has happened. That's where we are now.
Good. Amazing. I'm so glad.
There's a growing backlash against online dating on dating apps. Because you've got to remember with the dating apps, every time it's successful and it puts two people together, they lose 2 customers. They lose 2 users from their user base.
It's bad economics. Success is bad for business.
Yeah, so I'm not saying they're necessarily comic book villain making sure the system is set up to fail, because I don't think they have that much power in social engineering. But they're certainly not incentivized to alter the app in a way that encourages successful long-term engagement. They're always throwing more people at you. I think that's one of the most dangerous things, is this illusion of infinite choice. What if there's someone better? Oh, this person's not quite literally perfect. If I keep swiping, maybe I will find that perfect person that's into me. And I think that's a real road of madness to go down, which I've gone down myself. And it doesn't lead to better outcomes. It leads to throwing away good people.
Are you implying that you have stopped seeing someone on the off chance there's someone better on the app, or stop messaging with someone on the off chance that you found someone better on the app kind of thing? Or that's what happens?
Yes. More exactly, some of the behavior I regret is meeting good, decent people that I was attracted to, but I maybe didn't feel some X factor chemistry, and I didn't wait around long enough to see if it would develop. I felt there was something missing, and I felt I needed to find it with other people. So I would pull the plug and move on, looking for that thing. And I thought that was a reasonable enough motivation, but I think of it as quite immature now, or at least very short-sighted, and I would do it differently. Luckily, I'm happily girlfriended now, off the apps, and I don't ever intend to go back.
Oh, there we go. There's a happy story.
And
happy
I did find
ending.
her on an app.
Is that online dating apps in a nutshell?
The last thing I'll add is I think the only people really winning in online dating are the very most attractive men. They're the ones that can get whatever they want at any time because they're so rare, and all of the women want the same guys. Men have a much wider spread of who they'd be interested in. So even at the most attractive women, there are more most attractive women than there are most attractive men, I think, because men go primarily on looks with a bit of personality, at least in the early stages, whereas whilst women go on looks too, they're also interested in other aspects of the man in a way which men aren't interested in women. So they're interested in things like man's finances or status or charisma or power or something like that. But basically what it boils down to is even the most attractive women still have to compete with the other attractive women. And the blokes that they want, because they are desired by so many, they can, if the woman does something they don't like, they can just replace her without thinking too much about it. And so the power lies with them because they're basically the rarest, most desirable breed. So it all boils down to their whims. And if you want to be with that man, you kind of have to go with what he says.
I feel like that's spray bottle territory. Edging close to it. Women are interested in other things from a man, not just his attractiveness, like his money and his power and his status.
Was that not true?
Fucking no. Live in a cave.
I mean, would you agree that women judge men on more dimensions than men judge women?
I've got no fucking idea.
Oh, height. I've not even mentioned height. There we go. This is spray bottle time. And it varies by estimation and by app, but around, I can't remember which direction it is. Either way is huge. Around either a third or 2/3 of women only look at men who are 6 foot and higher.
I actually saw some of this coming up, and this is going to segue into lying on your profile, changing details about yourself, or creating a brand new profile, i.e. the catfishing that we were talking about. The fishing of cats.
If you're 5'11" and you know that a third or maybe 2/3 of the women out there aren't ever seeing your profile because it says you're 5'11", you might be quite tempted to just stretch the truth a little bit. It's just 1 inch, right? Just say you're 6 foot, and then you suddenly become a lot more desirable.
So I watched a couple of YouTubers who were doing catfishing for their YouTube channel, which I thought was quite cruel, actually. And one of them was just a fucking bellend. He was catfishing people on a felon dating website in the US, i.e. a dating website for people that have just been released from prison, and they're posting the most ridiculous profiles. Like, they all look like Danny Trejo.
God, there's a certain kind of woman that loves it.
And this guy was like, I'm going to catfish them. At best, you are just being a dick to someone who's been incarcerated, potentially through no fault of their own, debatable. At worst, you're putting yourself in bodily danger, you stupid Gen Z fuck.
You're deliberately pissing off dangerous people.
Yeah, but one of them was a girl who was putting a guy's profile together and actually said similar things, that it was quite brutal as a guy, like getting responses from women and just being ghosted almost constantly.
My experience was you had to be, once you hit matched with someone, you had to be pretty much perfectly on your chat game. The moment you say something boring, you're toast. Not always, but most of the time, because women can essentially have as many matches as they want. They just keep swiping. There's about a 50% or 60% chance average woman's like turns into a match. So they can have as many matches as they want, basically, which means the inbox is, in a day could have 10, 20 guys in it. So when you're messaging a woman, you're one of 20 people trying to get her attention long enough to meet up in person. So you've got to be insanely engaging to keep her attention enough. You've got to harvest more than your 1/20th allocation. And if 3 other guys are funnier and more engaging than you in that 20, then that's it, you're toast. And you never speak to them again.
Lucky for us, we don't have to worry about that as funny, engaging guys.
It's the only way I survived on dating apps was the chat. I think I'm an okay looking guy, but I really shone with the chat and the humor on the profile. That's the only thing that prevented me from a life of destitution.
This is grim stuff. Do you think you ever got catfished? Just dive right into it.
Did I ever get catfished? I got fatfished.
What does that mean? You did a chubber.
Oh, no.
It's not what the edit's going to say.
And you feel like a piece of shit as well with this in particular. I matched with an attractive looking woman who had only headshots, which is actually a red flag now that I know about it. And we had a great banter. I thought, this is fucking brilliant. And I went to her house to meet her for the first time, which is pretty wild because women are advised, for God's sake, don't do that. Don't meet at your house the first time you meet someone, you lunatic. But anyway, we did that. It was her suggestion. That's probably a red flag as well. But anyway, and she opened the door and she was enormous.
Did you bolt?
I wanted to be honest. I knew immediately. I was like, oh, this is not going to work. I'm not attracted to you. I mean, she wasn't just a bit chunky. She was bordering on spherical.
Morbidly obese.
Morbidly obese. Bariatric.
I'd have run. She doesn't know which car of mine is parked outside. Just run. Like, she's never going to catch me. Yeah.
I don't know if she saw on my face the obvious disappointment, but the dynamic was off immediately, and I stuck it out. I don't even know if that was the kind thing to do or not. And we chatted to each other for a couple of hours, had a pizza, and then I left. And I don't think we even texted afterwards. It was a sort of, it's only ghosting if someone messages and the other person doesn't reply, but neither of us did. And I don't know whether I was that vile in person she wasn't interested anymore either, or whether she kind of knew. I mean, she must have known. She must have known.
Yeah, no. There's a mutual understanding there, I'm sure.
Because she didn't accidentally upload only pictures of her head. That was very deliberate because she knew it would be off-putting to people. And I don't know if she saw it in my face or whether just it was obvious what was going to happen or what had happened. Yeah, I'd say that's a form of catfishing.
That's actually one of the premises of one of the episodes of MTV's Catfish that I watched as research for this. So catfishing as a term coined by that dude who did a documentary series about how someone had catfished him online, and then he got a spin-off into a reality TV show, sort of. I guess it's reality TV in as much as there's any reality in reality TV.
It's so tragic, actually. There's a lot of sadness in catfish and catfishing.
I thought it was hilarious. I might go and watch it now for fun. It's more than 10 years old, so it's not that relevant. But he got messaged by this kid who was a dishwasher in Arizona or something like that, 19-year-old kid. They hear his story. He works nights. He's met the love of his life online. He's been chatting to her. She's got this amazing profile, and she's got all the red flags there. You know, they've never had a video call.
Her webcam's broken.
And
she lives interstate.
Yeah.
She doesn't like voice calls.
No, they've had voice calls and stuff. And she was posting on her profile that they were in a relationship and stuff like this. But then when they asked him about it, like, he'd sent her gifts, he'd sent her money, all that kind of stuff.
My favorite part of that show is when they do the Google reverse image search and they find the exact pictures on someone else's Facebook account. And the guys are like,
no one's doing that. Yeah. Why is no one doing it?
The guys are like, well, we don't know what this means. Could mean anything. Let's not jump to conclusions. And I think they basically say this out of some sort of either kindness to the victim or the need to elongate the TV show.
That one.
But it's fucking clear. It's clear exactly what's happened here. What do you think the explanation is, kid? Do you think the other person's the catfish and you've happened to have got the hottie?
Well, this was amazing because they did the reverse image search, found the images of the person who actually owns the profile. So this girl had been taking like the recent profiles from the Instagram, and this guy had the Instagram of the actual girl, but wasn't chatting to her on Instagram and hadn't made the connection, spoiler alert, that this wasn't the person he was talking to. And they tell him this, oh my God, she agrees to meet up with him. They fly him out to where she was living in Florida, and she opens the door and it's some rather rotund Latino girl that looks nothing like the girl that he's been chatting to. Shock horror. But then they get in there and speak to her like she's agreed to go on the show already, so there's got to be a juicy twist coming up, right? And she was like, no, I told him 2 or 3 times that wasn't me, and we had a video chat and he's called me by my actual name before, but every time I try and tell him, he gets really upset and says he doesn't want to hear it. So I just I just revert back to telling him, oh, sorry, no, that was my cousin.
That's really interesting.
So he knew he catfished the program Catfish because he just didn't want to believe that he was dating a fatty.
I think that actually is really a microcosm of the catfishing experience. It takes two people to catfish, right? There's one person doing the faking and there's one person that's being taken in by it. And a lot of the time, if you're on the ball, you can see there are many things that don't add up in the catfisher's profile. Not always, sometimes they're really just excellent at it, but a lot of the time there are obvious red flags. And the victim, if they were really thinking clearly, would know. And in some cases, they probably do know, this is too good to be true. This isn't the real person. But they want to be deluded because they're lonely and they might have had no interest from other people. And here's someone who's attractive, who's finally taken an interest in them, and they desperately want it to be real and are willing to delude themselves as a result.
Yep. So cybersecurity company Fortinet describe catfishing as creating a new identity for yourself online using info from or pictures from other people, pretending to be someone else than yourself. And they do add that it's for tricking people into associating or doing business with them, but it's not always the case that it's for that. They kind of relate it to cyberbullying because usually the aim is to harm someone in some way, whether that's just to boost your own ego or literally to steal money from them, which is what I think they're really warning against. There's a lot of the online scams and Nigerian princes and horror stories from the internet about this are about financial crimes. But then a lot of studies have said that there's a good portion of people who are catfishing who have not necessarily malicious intent. So it's people that are not secure about themselves. They might suffer from depression, and this is a way to feel normal by having a different profile, not being yourself, or possibly even experimenting with different sexual preferences that you're not fully out with in the real world.
Or just wondering, how would my life be different if I was a little bit more attractive?
Mm-hmm.
Or I want to just feel what it's like to be super hot, seeing as I've not experienced that in my life. What does it feel like? Some people do it for kind of revenge. I've seen guys making profiles using male model pics and having a totally different experience from what they were having previously, and then just treating the women that they talk to like shit because that's how they've felt like they've been treated, and it's cathartic to them to have the boot on the other foot and be the one doing the hurting and rejecting for a change.
I think in some cases like that, there's a couple of different ways that you can use catfishing for revenge on someone, either making a fake profile of that person and then being a dick online or spreading stuff like, "Hi, it's me, Greg. I have the world's tiniest penis," and just replying to all messages like that. Or it's, as you say, making a fake profile and targeting someone in particular to make them feel bad because they've made you feel bad.
Yeah, but I think most of it is bored people with drab lives trying to spice it up a bit, or people that who feel like themselves are not interesting enough, or people that feel unattractive and just want to feel what it's like. And you can see how it happens sometimes. Like we're saying, what if you're 5'11" and you just stretch the truth a little bit to being 6 feet? Is that catfishing? I'd say probably not, but
I've got a term for that.
Go on.
Apparently only faking a few insignificant elements of your identity is called kitten fishing.
Kitten fishing.
It's not full catfish. It's kitten
just
fishing.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to know where good marketing ends and kitten fishing begins, or catfishing begins, really. But you can see how if you get a little more attention for doing that and you tweak another thing, you get a little more attention, you're being encouraged to optimize your profile further and further from reality. If the reality is unattractive and the more fakery you do, the more attention you get, the better it feels. You can understand how people get started in this.
Yeah, on the surface level, like if even with the nicest possible way, you are misleading someone because you have problems yourself. And the University of Queensland in Australia did a survey of people who are self-confessed catfish, and 41% of them said they did it because they were lonely and bored, and 1/3 of them said they were unhappy with their own appearance.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there
There's
you go.
some reasonings there. But you mentioned red flags a couple of times. What do you reckon are it's having a blurry, I read that somewhere, like having blurry photos is apparently a massive red flag that someone's a catfish.
Interesting. People use filters quite a lot. That's a red flag for other reasons. What would the red flags be? To spot a catfish, they never want to meet up, but they keep engaging with you. Their webcam is always broken, or their phone camera is broken, which is, of course, ridiculous in today's age. And what other ones? Love bombing, that's quite a common feature. Love bombing is where you act way too close and way too loving with someone you don't really know to try and speed up or force a sense of intimacy. Narcissists do this.
Yeah, to make people engage back with you. Like, oh my God, this person's so into me. I've never had that before. If they're targeting other people who are potentially lonely and looking for a connection. Not having many friends or followers, apparently, is also one.
Yes, a lack of digital footprint, because it's hard to fake 300 friends. What else have you got?
Having a profile picture that never really changes.
Yeah, one profile picture. That's a common one, I think. And there's also just sometimes I used to see this on Tinder, just the pictures are just too good. So this is a model. This is professional photo. And occasionally, like, sometimes people would be models, but other times it's just something about the quality of the photo is not a normal dating photo.
I think my LinkedIn profile basically says I'm a catfish at this point because I haven't changed the profile in there for ages. And I don't have many followers, and I definitely don't want to call a video with you on LinkedIn. The other obvious ones, and they kept coming up. I don't know how people are still getting hooked on these things, but again, you can say that it's this desperation or this human connection, whatever that is. Their stories don't add up, and they can change from message to message, and there's this over-the-top engagement or oversharing with you straight away to make you feel sorry for them.
Yeah,
or
I've heard that, yeah.
Make you feel like they love you straight away within about 3 messages. And then the really obvious one, asking you for money.
Well, my dad is ensnared in a scheme on this shitty website called friendswithbenefits.com. And he pays £1.20 for every message he sends. And his inbox has got maybe 10 women, quotes, air quotes, women messaging him at any time. And he's, well, I'm very popular on this website. He keeps trying to meet up with the people from this website. And in the 4 or 5 years he's been using it, and he's addicted to it. He uses it several hours a day, sending sometimes some absolute filth, which he enjoys. But he's never met a single person from it. And by his estimation, he spends £300 a month on it. And that's what he's willing to admit to. So I suspect the actual figure is higher. He can afford it, so it's not ruining him. And he, in his own words, enjoys the titillation of it. But it also is enough to keep him hooked, like addicted to it. He gets his phone out when we're out for dinner, and I can see him checking the messages. And it never really occurs to him that it's all fake. He told me once when I tried to point this out that I'm just jealous, which is nice, classy dad.
No.
So yeah, I can't really prove that it's harming him significantly. So I just kind of have to put up with it, because it's so hard to talk him out of it, because basically in order to give it up, he has to admit that he's been conned, and it makes him feel desirable, and he can't admit those things. And some parts of him might know it's fake and doesn't care anyway.
Can we get him articles that show that there are links between catfishing and kind of this industrial scale of cyber scam centers in the likes of Southeast Asia?
He's either talking to Indian dudes in a basement, or he's talking to just AI now.
But they could be human trafficked as well.
Yeah.
Like there's links between these things where people are forced to create social media accounts and then like sit there extorting people all day, every day as a shift.
In one of my favorite podcasts, Case File, they did one episode, I can't remember its name. It's a good podcast worth checking out, on exactly this. Some people that were trafficked from, was it Thailand to Cambodia? Some Thai women, and forced to work in these call centers, scamming lonely Westerners for money. And they made hundreds of thousands of dollars every month out of it. Yeah, that's pretty dark.
Yeah, an article on wejustclicked.uk called out catfishing as one of the darker sides of online dating, because even without the financial scam side of things, even without the well-documented murder cases that I mentioned earlier on from the early 2000s around MySpace, if we talk about just online dating, it's still about deception and kind of ultimately control. You control the narrative, and you're kind of controlling that other person. And
people who admit to catfishing, they've done studies on them, have a way higher incidence of dark triad personality traits. Have you heard of these? Which is Machiavellianism, which is basically your willingness to manipulate people, narcissism, which is rampant self-interest, and psychopathy, which is lack of empathy. So people that engage in catfishing a lot are also higher on these traits by a long way than the general population.
Yeah, I read a little bit about that, and then I got concerned about my own score in that triad, and let's just leave that there. Let's just say one of them quite a bit higher than others.
Everyone's got a bit of it. So there was one other thing I wanted to say about online dating, which is it doesn't actually seem to work, or it works for some people, but there's something wrong with it that a lot of people seem to struggle with. And the theory I have with this is you usually, through the course of dating someone, by around the third date, you've normally had sex. Somewhere between the first and fourth date is normal to have sex. Kind of men and women alike are on this schedule. And in fact, if you've not made a move on a woman by the third date, they start to question you and themselves, and they think something's wrong with you or them. So it's very much expected. And I think you end up in this state where you barely know this person. You've hopped into bed with them. You've spent 4 dates, say 8 hours with this person. You might know them a bit to know something about them and like them, but you don't really know them. And you haven't had time to develop an emotional attachment the same way throughout human history we've always done. You might develop an infatuation by looking at someone and then fantasizing about who they might be. But an actual emotional bond you tend to develop with people that you spend significant amounts of time with. Then you become attracted to them as well. And then a relationship happens. Then you have sex. And online dating puts the sex first. And then I think it often leaves people feeling empty afterwards when there isn't that emotional foundation of attachment to back it up. And they think, well, there must just be something wrong with this connection then. I'm going to go looking for someone else. And I think the way to win online dating is to identify someone that's good for you, that you're attracted to, wait for the attachment to come over time. And it might not be there to begin with, but in time it will. And that's how you break the cycle, is my theory to anyone listening who has suffered in online dating.
Anyone who wants to get out.
Who wants to get out,
still can.
Yeah. Stop chasing the dragon and get out. What are your thoughts on that? That was a long rant, sorry.
It wasn't a long rant. It was a well-grounded and argued case that says the dating app scene is going against the way that people have formed relationships, sexual or otherwise, but with romantic partners from the dawn of time up until now, potentially.
Yeah, exactly. And our brains aren't equipped to handle the massive amount of potential suitors, the massive amount of interest, the early physical intimacy, and the disposable gamified nature of it, where we're addicted to dopamine hits from swiping more than we're addicted to real connection with people.
I think there's probably a counter-argument to be made there that it's not always been such a rosy picture for women who were treated as little more than property before like the 1900s, let's say, where you might get married to someone 30 years older than you with no choice, but your father decided it was a good match. But, we're a long way from there, even before the dating apps. And let's say from the 50s onwards, the world hasn't been like that, but this is breaking what was a fairly well-established and not unsuccessful pattern.
Mm-hmm. The advent of easy access contraception and birth control has given women a lot more autonomy, whereas time was, if you're having sex with someone, there's a good chance you're going to end up with a baby with them. So either that forced your hand, or you just couldn't risk engaging in sex with someone. But it did also force men to be a bit more responsible too, back in the day. And
No, it didn't. Just have illegitimate children and walk away. That was a man's prerogative back in the day.
Maybe. I'd say that women's empowerment there and the control over birth control and things like that has got to be a good thing. But I think the way it's made sex more accessible than ever has consequences for both men and women in how we form relationships. And most people that do online dating will probably tell you that it's not really a very enjoyable experience, and it feels, after a while, after the initial hit wears off, it's difficult to find real connection.
You have to know that you're, or what you're in it for, or what you're going to get out of it. And hopefully you're right in that, people are turning against it, because it just sounds like, as you said, they're just selling you misery packaged as hope.
Yeah, totally.
I guess I don't really have to go too far into, would you be into this, if we start to round ourselves towards final thoughts, because I don't have to worry about that now, and I certainly wouldn't bother with it in the future. Just there's nothing appealing about any of this, not just about the dating app thing, and I've got no desire to meet humans at the best of times, but I've also got no desire to catfish them either. I've got no desire to pretend to be someone else online and just see what I can get out of people. Although a few times researching it, I was like, they make it sound really easy. Like there's just so many lonely people out there.
If you're attractive, then you can get the attention.
No,
that's
just
easy.
Go and copy the pictures of an attractive person.
Yeah, but then it's fake though. It's not validating you really, is it?
No, but that's the catfishing part. If you want it for the, if you be in it for the scamming.
True. Would I be into it? Well, I have been into it for a long time. I didn't necessarily... It got progressively worse over time. When I was first into it, I was fresh out of...
Compton. Crazy motherfucker. No, sorry, I'm not doing that.
Fresh out of Compton. I was fresh out of a 6-year relationship, and I'd been single for 6 weeks before that, and then a 3-year relationship before that. So I hit 27, having basically not been single in my adult life. I had low self-esteem, a fragile sense of self-worth, and when I got on dating apps, my self-esteem was hanging in the balance and based entirely on what validation I could get from women through that. Because I didn't really know. Am I attractive to women? Am I worth anything as a man? It's how I felt. And luckily for me, I did get engagement and interest, and I went on dates with interesting people and had a great time. And it was validating for me. I don't recommend this as a way to validate yourself because it's risky, but it worked for me, and I eventually got it out of my system, I guess. And it's easy to say when it's an option for you, but now I don't think I base my self-esteem on that. But perhaps it's because I've proven to myself that I am desirable to the opposite sex, and in certain circumstances anyway. But as time went on, the experience got worse, got more difficult. I don't know if it was me getting older, and in the sort of mid-30s bracket, it's just a less busy market than when you're in your late 20s, because more people are paired up. I think it's also people get more jaded the more time they spend in the apps, myself included. If I had to go back, if my relationship goes up in smoke and blows up in my face now, would I go back on the apps? Oh, it was work, and I don't know, to be honest. I don't think I'd meet anyone in person, and if I didn't go to the effort of working the apps again, I probably just wouldn't meet anyone, and maybe I'd be okay with that. There's a lot to be said for a simple life.
Or just learning to enjoy your own company. But then...
more than ever.
You said maybe it got harder or it got worse, so you got more jaded, but maybe also what you were looking for changed. Maybe you did get it out of your system, and actually what you ended up looking for, like an actual human connection, rather than just, oh, I can pretend about it that I'm looking for a relationship, but really I'm out here to smash. Maybe the actual connection part is not really what they're geared towards, and once you realize that, you go, this is a bit shit.
Yeah, I think my advice to anyone that gives the slightest shit what my opinion is on the subject, who's thinking of online dating or they're in an online dating situation, is try speed dating. At least that's in person. You meet a bunch of people, might have a connection. It levels the playing field a little bit. You can be charming in person. I'd say that's a halfway house between online dating app culture and traditional organic meeting people. It feels a little bit more honest, a bit more real.
Or you can just chemically castrate yourself. That's also fine.
Or you can just jerk off into a sock for the rest of your life. Have I got anything else to say?
Hold up. People love this section. People love it. We have to do it.
Sorry, we've got to do it properly. Right.
Joe, we're coming to the end of this.
We've not asked the big question.
We haven't asked the big question.
Is it?
Oh, I can't even whisper now. Fuck me, I'm broken.
Is it sexual?
Is it sexual?
Sexual!
Am I sexual to you, Joseph?
Thoroughly. I can't get out from this desk.
That's how I'm going to have my dating app announce things. It's going to all scream things at you.
At least you know what you're getting.
As soon as the profile pops up. Am I sexual?
True to life. But yeah, is it sexual? Well, yes.
It's not sexual.
For almost everyone. You've got a few asexual people out there, aces, who have no interest in it, but the vast majority of people that engage in dating and relationships, sex is an important part of it. Is the act of actually being on a dating app sexually thrilling in itself? Can be if you match with someone hot, and your fantasy life can suddenly, so your fantasy world can kick into overdrive, and you can have a wonderful little
jerk off
session. That feels like abuse of the situation. I'm not saying I've not done it,
They knew what they were getting into and they put those filthy pictures there.
Public domain, mate.
Oh, that's right. Bit of ankle. We like that. Show us your shoulder, love.
That sounds threatening.
Yeah. People feel entitled to have a free dating app for some reason, and they resent having to pay money for it. So, well, that's not bad intrinsically, if the things they sell you actually help you out in some way. It's annoying that they've put these obstacles in the way, but the reality is, if you're fucking ugly, no amount of super likes, featured posts, a featured profile, any other shit is going to make up for that. If your profile's trash, it's always going to be trash. And if you show it to everyone, everyone will say it's trash. So they'll take your money, but it's not actually going to help you out. It's a brutal world. There's things you can do to improve your looks, your profile. A lot of men are just crap at making profiles. The bar is quite low. Women are a bit better at presenting themselves to the world.
I think lazy horniness counts for a lot in this.
Lazy horniness.
That's why the profiles are crap. They're just like, oh, quick, get a profile together. Go and find someone. Drift forward.
Do it now. I want to meet someone now. I have to meet you for sex now. Get to the O.
The numbers game is fucking horrendous for men and women. So say that you like 10% of the, well, let's say you're generous. You like 25% of the profiles you see. And as a man, you tend to match with about 2% of them. As we said, in my own experience, about 50% will actually engage in a conversation, and you'll maybe meet a third of the people that you had a chat with, if you're devastatingly charming and charismatic like myself. And if you multiply that all out, you have to send 333 likes to get one date, which means you've got to see about 1,300 profiles and swipe through them to get a single date out of all this. That's fucking wild.
This is dating for MMO fans that can just sit there and, hit that grind button.
Grind the numbers.
Over and over to level up. Yep.
And then if you look in a place like I live in Oxford, which is 160,000 people, if you divide that into men and women, say 80,000 of each, and let's say people live for 80 years and there's a 10-year age range. So 1/8 of that, say there's 10,000 women in Oxford. Let's say maybe half of them are single and on a dating app. That's probably generous. So that's 5,000 women. And according to these stats, if I'm getting one date out of every 1,300 people I see, that's basically the entire city of Oxford. In that current moment in time, there's 3 women in the entire city willing to go on a date with me. Which
That sounds pretty good, for what I would expect.
given the troll that I am.
If I walked into a city, I would expect that there's no women in this city that would want to date me. That you'd have to start really super low, and then you can only the only way is up. I expect that I'm attractive to absolutely no one. Can't be disappointed.
It's fair. I don't know, 3's probably about right. And of course that number refreshes, people get into relationships and new people appear in the dating market. But yeah, if you break it down like that, it's kind of a bit depressing to think in a city of so many, there's only actually a handful of people that you're likely to meet. But that all said, I've met some wonderful people over the years that I'm still friends with, even though it never panned out romantically. And that's been great, and it's enriched my life in that sense. So I don't know if we can have a go at answering that original question. Does it do more harm than good? What are your thoughts?
Well, from the numbers game you've laid out there, and from the crushing ego failure that we've described throughout the whole section, and how it's basically turning dating society into embittered husks of humans who are addicted to this way of meeting people rather than in person. It doesn't sound great.
I agree. But I think whilst it is an emotional roller coaster and exhausting and can do fairly consistent levels of low-key damage, you only need it to work once. If you meet someone that you really click with and you can spend the rest of your life with them, does that make it all worthwhile? I'd say probably does, if that's what you're looking for. So whether it does more harm or good depends entirely on whether it works out for you or not.
And that's also going to depend on would you have been able to meet any people, let alone that people. Good English, me, let alone that person. If you did have maybe more anxiety about meeting people face to face, you weren't that confident in interpersonal interactions without the screen in the way. I mean, it's a facilitator of of introductions, if nothing else. But I don't think that that's necessarily going to balance out the ruining of an entire generation's worth of dating and people finding each other.
Fair. So in conclusion,
that is the subculture of dating apps and possibly its impact on our culture as a whole.
What do you think, listeners? Have you had a shit time on a dating app? Let us know in the comments.
Yeah, we could get some stories. Maybe we can circle back around to this. I'd like to do more of a dive into catfishing, actually. I think there's more to be said. Maybe there's a separate side quest to be had on this, but I would actually like some listener comments about the dross that you've experienced online.
That would be cool. I'd also like to cover sugar dating, sugar relationships in the future as well. Whether that's a whole episode or a side quest, I'm not sure.
It's just too many sexy topics around how people can fuck up meeting each other.
Yeah. About how we've strayed from the path of the light. Every day we stray further from God's love.
Yeah, so drop us a comment wherever you're listening to this, or follow us on all the social media sites that are definitely not dating apps. Currently, you can find us on Twitter or X at Sub-Subcult Instagram, Sub-Subculture Podcast, and our own Reddit page, our Sub-Subculture Podcast. So comments about this topic, suggestions for future topics, maybe we'll cover them, give you a little shout out, tell the world it was your idea. And of course, you can check out all the previous episodes we've made and our special side quests that I've banged on about on your favorite place for podcasts, whether that's Apple, Amazon, or Overcast, Spotify, YouTube, the back of a neighbor's head as you walk down the street, however you ingest media.
Are we going to tease what is up next time? Next time, we are covering the sultry and delicious topic of Hell's Angels.
Salty and delicious, perhaps more. Like
Leathery.
The leathery and sweaty world of Hell's Angels.
Leathery like a Victorian whore's asshole.
Interesting.
So it's what I think of when I think of leather.
Good. Great. So if you want to go from online dating to Hell's Angels, there's probably an app for you out there. But check it out next time. This has been the Sub-Subculture Podcast, and it's time to say farewell. Farewell, Joe.
Farewell, Andrew. Adieu. Good night, sweet prince.
I'm so glad I met you on Grindr.
Grindr? Hardly know her.